Dr. Nathan Carter adjusted his Italian silk tie as he reviewed the morning's patient list. At 35, he commanded respect in Manhattan's most prestigious medical tower. His family name opened doors that money alone couldn't budge. The polished marble floors reflected golden sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the faint scent of eucalyptus filled his private cardiology office. Everything about Nathan's world was controlled, predictable, sterile. Until Sarah Mitchell walked in. She entered like a shadow, trying not to disturb the light. 26 years old, according to her sparse file. Referred from a small-town doctor in Springfield. Her oversized cardigan hung loose on her small frame, and she clutched an old canvas bag against her chest like armor. "Good morning, Sarah." Nathan gestured to the leather chair across from his mahogany desk. She flinched at the sound of her name, her large eyes darting everywhere except his face. When she finally sat, her fingers knotted nervously in her sleeves. "I see you've been experiencing irregular heartbeats," he said, opening her file. "Yes," she whispered so quietly he had to lean forward. "It feels like my heart races, especially around people." Nathan studied her pale face, noting the tremor in her voice that had nothing to do with arrhythmia. "Any chest pain?" Her head shook, eyes still avoiding his gaze. "Previous medical conditions? Surgeries?" Another shake. "All right, I'll need to listen to your heart to rule out anything physical." He reached for his stethoscope. Sarah froze completely. Her breath caught, and her hands turned visibly cold and clammy. Nathan paused, lowering the instrument. "I won't proceed unless you're comfortable." Her lips parted, then closed. A blush climbed her neck as shame colored her cheeks. Then, with a voice like a fragile thread, she whispered something that made Nathan's entire worldview crack. "I've never been touched. Not like this. Not by anyone, really." Nathan's eyebrows drew together. In 15 years of practice, he'd treated CEOs, celebrities, even heads of state, but never someone whose vulnerability felt this raw, this real. "Not even during childhood checkups?" he asked gently. "I avoided them." She looked up for just a flicker, and he saw it. A lifetime of fear trapped behind quiet eyes. "I've never had an exam like this before." Something shifted inside Nathan's chest. Subtle but irreversible. This wasn't just about medicine anymore. "Okay," Nathan said softly, setting his stethoscope aside. "Let's slow down. You're safe here." Sarah's shoulders relaxed slightly, though her grip on her bag remained tight. "I'll guide you through every step," he continued. "You can stop me at any moment, deal?" She hesitated, then gave the faintest nod. When Nathan finally placed the stethoscope near her collarbone, Sarah flinched but didn't pull away. Her heart was racing so fast he could barely get a steady rhythm. His hands remained steady, but his thoughts weren't. This woman's vulnerability wasn't performative. It was achingly genuine. After the brief examination, Sarah released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. So did Nathan. "Your heart sounds strong," he said, removing his gloves. "But I need you to come back tomorrow for some additional tests." Sarah nodded and gathered her things quickly, eager to escape. But as she reached the door, she paused. "Thank you," she said without turning around, "for being kind." After she left, Nathan remained seated, staring at the closed door. For the first time in years, he felt something beyond professional concern. He felt protective, and that terrified him. Sarah returned the next day wearing the same cardigan, the same guarded expression. But this time, when Nathan smiled, she almost smiled back. The tests were routine. EKG, blood work, stress monitor. Nathan explained each procedure before touching her, watching her breathing steady with every reassurance. By the end of the appointment, she'd stopped flinching entirely. "Everything looks normal," Nathan said, reviewing the results. "Your symptoms are likely anxiety-related, not cardiac." "So nothing's wrong with me?" "I didn't say that." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "Anxiety is real, Sarah. It's affecting your quality of life. Have you considered speaking with someone?" Her face closed like a door slamming shut. "I'm fine. You're not," he said gently, "and that's okay." Silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. Then Sarah spoke, her voice barely audible. "When I was 12, my father left, just walked out one morning and never came back." Her fingers twisted the hem of her cardigan. "My mother blamed me. Said I drove him away by being too quiet, too strange, too much trouble. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I stopped talking at school, stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria. Eventually, I stopped leaving my room unless I had to. She looked up, and her eyes were hollow. The doctors wanted to help, but every appointment felt like being examined under glass. Like I was broken, and everyone could see it. You're not broken, Nathan said firmly. You don't know that. I do. He held her gaze. You're here, aren't you? Despite being terrified. That takes incredible strength. For the first time, tears welled in Sarah's eyes. She blinked them back fiercely. Why do you care? Nathan didn't have an answer he could speak aloud. Because you remind me that I'm still human. Because your pain feels familiar. Because I've spent years hiding behind credentials and family names. And you've stripped all of that away with one honest conversation. Instead, he said, because it's my job. Sarah stood abruptly, slinging her bag over her shoulder. Of course, your job. Her voice was flat. Thank you for your time, Dr. Carter. She was out the door before he could respond. Nathan sat in the sudden silence, feeling like he'd just failed a test he didn't know he was taking. That evening, Nathan did something he hadn't done in years. He called his younger sister Emily, the only person who knew about the cracks in his perfect facade. You sound weird, Emily said immediately. What happened? Nothing. I just wanted to talk. Nathan Carter doesn't just do anything. Spill. He sighed. There's a patient. She's dealing with severe anxiety, isolation issues. I think I said something wrong today. Do you care about her? Like actually care? Nathan hesitated too long. Oh my God, you do. Emily laughed. The great Dr. Carter is human after all. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Nathan stared at his reflection in the darkened office window. When had he become so hollow? I don't know, he admitted. 3 days later, Sarah appeared in his waiting room unannounced. Nathan's receptionist looked flustered. She doesn't have an appointment, but she insisted it was urgent. Nathan found Sarah pacing near the windows. Her face flushed, her breathing rapid. Sarah, he approached carefully. What's wrong? She turned and he saw panic in her eyes. I need to tell you something, she gasped, before I lose my nerve. Okay, come into my office. Once the door closed, Sarah spoke in a rush. I lied. My heart doesn't race around people. It races around you. Her hands trembled. Since that first appointment, I can't stop thinking about you. I know it's wrong. I know you probably think I'm pathetic. But I had to tell you because I've never felt this before and it's terrifying, and I don't know what to do. Nathan stood frozen, every professional boundary screaming at him to de-escalate, to redirect, to maintain distance. But instead, he crossed the space between them in 3 steps and cupped her face in his hands. You're not pathetic, he whispered. You're brave. And then he kissed her. The moment their lips touched, the world tilted. Sarah gasped against his mouth, her fingers clutching his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing universe. Nathan kissed her gently at first, then deeper, tasting her fear and hunger and hope all at once. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. This is wrong, Sarah whispered. I know. You could lose your license. I know. Then why? Nathan pressed his forehead to hers, his heart pounding harder than it had in years. Because for the first time in my life, I don't care about doing the right thing. I just care about you. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but this time they spilled over. You don't know me, Nathan. Not really. Then let me. She pulled back, her expression suddenly shadowed by something dark, something ancient. If I do, you'll hate me. That's impossible. No, Sarah said, her voice breaking. It's inevitable. She turned and walked out, leaving Nathan standing alone in his office, the taste of her still on his lips, and a cold dread settling in his chest. What was she hiding? Nathan didn't hear from Sarah for 5 days. He tried calling, but her number went straight to voicemail. He considered showing up at her address, but that crossed a line even he couldn't justify. On the 6th day, Emily showed up at his office unannounced. We need to talk. Her face was pale. drawn tight with worry. What's wrong? She closed the door and turned to face him, her hands trembling. Do you remember the Mitchell family? From Springfield? Nathan's blood went cold. Sarah Mitchell is your patient, isn't she? Emily continued, her voice hollow. How do you know that name? Because 10 years ago, Thomas Mitchell was the lead investigator on Dad's embezzlement case. Emily's eyes filled with tears. The case that destroyed our family reputation. The case that drove Mom to her pills and Dad to his early grave. Nathan felt the floor drop from beneath him. No. Sarah Mitchell is Thomas Mitchell's daughter, Nathan, the man who ruined us. The walls of his pristine office seemed to close in. Nathan gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. That's impossible. She said her father left when she was 12. He did. Right after he finished the investigation and refused the bribe Dad tried to give him. Thomas Mitchell walked away from everything, including his family, because he couldn't live with the threats Dad made against them. Emily's voice cracked. He disappeared to protect them. And our father made sure everyone in Springfield knew the Mitchell name was poison. Nathan's mind reeled. The shy, broken woman who'd walked into his office. The girl who couldn't be touched, who'd been blamed for her father's departure. She was the daughter of the man who'd destroyed his family. Does she know? Nathan asked quietly. Does she know who I am? I don't know. But Nathan, you need to stay away from her. If the board finds out you're involved with a Mitchell after everything Dad did, it'll destroy your career. They'll say you're compromised. They'll say you're using her to get revenge or that she's using you. Nathan looked at his sister, really looked at her. She was 28 now, but he could still see the scared teenager she'd been when their father's crimes went public. When their mother overdosed 6 months later, when they'd both had to rebuild their lives from ash. I care about her, Nathan said softly. You barely know her. I know enough. Emily grabbed his arm. Nathan, please. Think about this. Our family has suffered enough. Don't throw away everything you've built for someone whose father destroyed us. Her father did his job. Our father was a criminal. Don't you dare defend Thomas Mitchell. Emily's voice rose, sharp with old pain. He could have looked the other way. He could have given Dad a chance to make things right. Instead, he went nuclear and tore apart 2 families. He did what was right. And where did that get him? Where did it get any of us? Emily wiped angry tears from her face. Sarah Mitchell grew up hated because of her father's choices. We grew up hated because of ours. Don't you see? You're both victims of men who valued principles over people. Nathan pulled his arm free, his mind racing. I need to talk to her. Nathan, don't. But he was already grabbing his coat. Nathan found Sarah's apartment in a rundown building on the outskirts of the city. The buzzer didn't work, so he waited until someone left and slipped inside. 3rd floor, apartment 3C, he knocked. No answer. Sarah, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Silence, please. I know who your father is. The door cracked open. Sarah stood there in sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her eyes red and swollen. So you know, she whispered. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know at first. She opened the door wider, letting him in. The apartment was sparse, clean, almost empty. When I got the referral, it was just a name. Dr. Nathan Carter. I didn't make the connection until after our first appointment. And then I looked you up. Sarah's voice was thick with shame. I saw your family history. I saw what my father did to yours. And I realized the one person who'd ever been kind to me was someone I'd hurt before we even met. Nathan stepped closer. You didn't hurt me. You were a child. My father destroyed your family. My father destroyed himself. Yours just exposed the truth. Sarah laughed bitterly. You don't understand. After your father died and the news broke, people in Springfield blamed my dad. Said he was heartless. They vandalized our house. My mother couldn't get work. We lost everything. Her hands clenched into fists. I thought if I stayed away from you, if I never came back, maybe the guilt would stop eating me alive. But then I felt something real for the first time in my life, and I couldn't do it anymore. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry for what my father did. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for being the daughter of the man who killed yours. Nathan pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed against him, sobbing. My father killed himself with his choices, Nathan said into her hair. Not yours, not your father's. They stood like that for a long time. Two broken people clinging to each other in the ruins of their father's war. Finally, Sarah pulled back, wiping her eyes. You should go. Being with me will destroy your reputation. I don't care. You should. Her voice hardened. Because I got a call yesterday. From a journalist, asking questions about Dr. Nathan Carter and his relationship with Thomas Mitchell's daughter. Nathan's blood ran cold. Who? I don't know. But they knew we'd been seeing each other. They knew about the appointments, about us. Sarah's face was ashen. Someone's been watching us, Nathan. And they're going to destroy both of us. Nathan's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his hands shaking. It was a text from an unknown number, a photo of him and Sarah kissing in his office, and a message. Breaking news. Elite doctor's secret affair with daughter of the man who destroyed his family. Check your email for our questions. You have 24 hours before we publish. Nathan looked at Sarah, and he saw his own horror reflected in her eyes. Someone had been watching them from the beginning. And now, everything was about to burn. Nathan's penthouse overlooked the city, glass and steel and cold perfection. Sarah sat on his couch, wrapped in one of his shirts, while he paced like a caged animal. We could run, she said quietly. Run where? This will follow us everywhere. Then we face it, together. Nathan stopped pacing and looked at her. In the dim light, she looked impossibly young, impossibly fragile, and impossibly brave. If we face this, you'll be dragged through the media circus. They'll dig into your past, your father, your mother. Every painful moment of your life will become entertainment. I know. Sarah, you can barely handle being in a crowded room. This will destroy you. Maybe. She stood, crossing to him. But losing you will destroy me faster. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, memorizing every detail. The slight scar above her left eyebrow, the way her eyes held galaxies of pain and hope, the softness of her skin. I can't let that happen, he whispered. His phone rang. Emily. Don't answer it, Sarah said. But he did. Nathan, the board knows. Someone sent them the photo. Emily's voice was frantic. They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. If you don't end this now, they'll strip your license. Everything you've worked for, gone. I don't care. Well, I do, Emily shouted. And so should you. Mom's medical bills, Nathan. The foundation in Dad's name that we've spent years building to make amends. The free clinic you fund. All of it depends on your career. Nathan closed his eyes. The free clinic. Hundreds of patients who couldn't afford care elsewhere. People who depended on him. There has to be another way, he said. There isn't. Not unless you walk away from her. Publicly. After he hung up, Sarah was watching him with knowing eyes. What do you have to do? She asked. Nothing. We'll figure this out, Nathan. Don't lie to me. Not now, so he told her. Everything. The board meeting. The ultimatum. The hundreds of people whose health care depended on his reputation remaining intact. Sarah listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. When he finished, she nodded slowly. Then you have to let me go. No. Nathan, listen to me. She grabbed his hands. You save lives. Every single day you make a difference for people who have no one else. I'm one person, one broken, damaged person who's been a burden since the day I was born. Don't say that. It's true. My father left because of me. My mother hated me. I've spent my entire life being something people walk away from. Tears slipped down her cheeks. At least this time it'll mean something. At least this time, my absence will save someone. It'll destroy me, Nathan said, his voice breaking. No. You're stronger than that. You've already survived worse. She stood on her toes and kissed him softly. This is my choice, Nathan. Let me make it. Sarah, please. Do you love me? The question hung in the air between them, heavy and impossible. Yes, Nathan whispered. God help me, yes. Then love me enough to let me do this. She pulled away from him, and it felt like losing a limb. Tomorrow morning, I'll release a statement. I'll say I misrepresented myself to you, that I sought you out deliberately because of our father's history, that I manipulated you into caring about me as some kind of twisted revenge. No one will believe that. They will if I'm convincing enough. Her smile was sad and ancient. I've spent my whole life hiding, Nathan. I'm very good at lying when I need to be. I won't let you do this. You don't have a choice. She gathered her things, moving with sudden purpose. Because I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Sarah. She turned at the door, and her eyes were clear despite the tears. I spent my whole life thinking I was worthless, that I was the reason everything fell apart. Her voice steadied. But if I can do this, if I can save your career and all those people who need you, then maybe my life meant something after all. You mean something to me. I know. She smiled, and it was the saddest thing he'd ever seen. That's why this works. The next morning, Sarah's statement hit the news. Nathan watched from his office as his phone exploded with messages. Colleagues offering support, the board expressing relief, Emily crying tears of gratitude. Sarah Mitchell had painted herself as a calculating manipulator, a woman who'd used her father's history with the Carter family to worm her way into Nathan's life and career. She claimed psychological instability, a history of deception, and admitted to fabricating her medical symptoms to gain his attention. It was a masterpiece of self-destruction, and it worked. The board dismissed the case. Nathan's reputation was bruised but intact. The clinic remained funded. Hundreds of patients would continue receiving care, and Sarah vanished. Nathan tried calling. Her number was disconnected. He went to her apartment. Empty, no forwarding address. He hired investigators. They found nothing. It was as if she'd never existed. 6 months passed. Nathan threw himself into work with manic intensity. He saw patients, performed surgeries, gave lectures. He was brilliant, professional, untouchable, and completely hollow. Emily tried to comfort him. She did the right thing. She saved you. She destroyed herself to save me. That was her choice. It was a choice she shouldn't have had to make. One evening, Nathan was locking his office when he found an envelope slipped under his door. No return address. Inside, a single piece of paper. Sarah's handwriting. I'm sorry I lied. But I'm not sorry I met you. You showed me what it feels like to be worth saving. That's more than I ever hoped for. Please don't look for me. Live the life we both know you're meant to live. Save people. Be brilliant. Be happy. And maybe, sometimes, remember that I loved you enough to let you go. S. Nathan stood in his empty office, the letter clutched in his hand, and finally let himself break. He sank to the floor, his back against the mahogany desk, and wept for the woman who'd sacrificed everything so he could keep saving lives. For the love he'd found and lost in the span of heartbeats, for the hollowness that no amount of success could ever fill, and in that moment, Nathan Carter made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find her, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. Because some sacrifices were too great to accept, and some loves were worth burning the world down for. It took Nathan 3 months to find her, not through investigators or private detectives, but through pure stubborn determination and a pattern he'd noticed in her behavior. Sarah feared crowds but sought beauty. She avoided people but needed art. He found her in a small coastal town in Oregon, working at a bookstore that specialized in rare poetry collections. Nathan watched her through the window for a full minute before entering. She wore a green sweater he'd never seen before, her hair longer now, pulled back in a loose braid. She was helping an elderly customer find a book, her smile genuine if still cautious. She looked peaceful. He almost turned around, almost left her to the quiet life she'd built. But then she looked up and saw him through the glass and her face went white. The bell chimed as Nathan entered. The elderly customer left. The store owner glanced between them, sensed something monumental, and disappeared into the back room. You found me, Sarah whispered. Did you really think I wouldn't? I hoped you wouldn't. Her hands gripped the counter. Nathan, you can't be here. If anyone sees us together, if anyone finds out, everything I did was for nothing. I don't care. Well, I do. Her voice rose, sharp with panic. I destroyed my own reputation to save yours. Don't make it meaningless. Nathan crossed the space between them slowly, deliberately. You want to know what's meaningless, Sarah? The past 6 months, Every surgery I performed perfectly while feeling nothing. Every patient I saved while dying inside. Every night I spent in that empty penthouse wondering if you were safe, if you were eating, if you remembered that someone in this world loves you. Nathan, stop. No, I'm done stopping. He was close enough now to see the tears gathering in her eyes. You made your sacrifice. You saved my career, my reputation, the clinic, and I'm grateful. But you don't get to decide that you're not worth fighting for. I'm not, she said, her voice breaking. I'm damaged goods, Nathan. I'm the daughter of the man who destroyed your family. I'm unstable, broken, unlovable. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I'm a coward who ran away. You're a hero who saved hundreds of lives by saving mine. Nathan cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. And I'm not leaving without you. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything the day you walked away. His voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. My career, my reputation, my family name, none of it means anything without you. Don't you understand? You're not the weight I'm carrying. You're the reason I want to carry anything at all. Sarah's composure shattered. She pressed her hands against his chest, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done living half a life to make other people comfortable. I'm saying I'm ready to burn it all down if that's what it takes. Nathan pressed his forehead to hers. I'm saying I choose you. Over my career, over my family name, over everything. Nathan, you're not thinking clearly. I've never thought more clearly in my life. What about the clinic? The patients? I'll find another way to fund it. I'll work somewhere that doesn't care about scandals. I'll go to the middle of nowhere if I have to, but I won't do it without you. Sarah closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is letting you walk away in the first place. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. For a long moment, they stood like that, breathing the same air, balanced on the knife edge of a decision that would reshape both their lives. Then Sarah made her choice. She kissed him. Not soft or tentative like before, but fierce and desperate and real. Nathan wrapped his arms around her, lifting her off her feet, pouring 6 months of grief and longing and hope into that kiss. When they finally broke apart, both were crying. What do we do now? Sarah asked. We start over, together. Nathan wiped the tears from her cheeks. No more secrets. No more running. Just us, figuring it out as we go. People will judge us. Let them. Your family will never accept me. Emily already does. She was the one who helped me find you. Sarah's eyes widened. What? Turns out my sister is more forgiving than either of us gave her credit for. She said, and I quote, "Go get your girl before I disown you for being an idiot." A laugh broke through Sarah's tears. It was the most beautiful sound Nathan had ever heard. I don't deserve you, she said. Good thing love isn't about deserving. Nathan laced his fingers through hers. It's about choosing, and I choose you, every day, every moment, for as long as you'll have me. Sarah looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. In his eyes, she saw everything she'd been searching for her entire life. Safety, acceptance, home. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They left the bookstore together, walking into the afternoon sunlight hand in hand. Nathan didn't know what came next. There would be consequences, difficult conversations, rebuilt bridges and burned ones. But for the first time in his carefully controlled life, Nathan Carter was choosing something messy and uncertain, and absolutely right. He was choosing love over legacy, truth over appearances, Sarah over everything else. And as they walked down that small-town street, both damaged and healing and impossibly brave, Nathan realized something profound. His father had taught him that reputation was everything. But Sarah had taught him that being everything to someone was worth more than any reputation. 6 months later, Nathan opened a small practice in that coastal Oregon town. Nothing fancy, no marble floors or eucalyptus scent. Just a simple office where he treated fishermen and artists and elderly poets with the same care he'd once reserved for Manhattan's elite. Sarah worked at the bookstore 3 days a week and volunteered at a local anxiety support group the other 2. Slowly, Painfully, she was learning to exist in the world without apologizing for it. They bought a small house overlooking the ocean. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Emily visited twice a month, bringing news from the city and slowly, carefully building a friendship with the woman her brother loved. The scandal faded. New ones took its place. The world moved on, and Nathan and Sarah learned to live not in the shadow of their father's war, but in the light they'd created for themselves. On their wedding day, a year later, they stood on a beach at sunset with only Emily and the bookstore owner as witnesses. No grand ceremony, no guest list, no family name to uphold. Just two people who'd found each other in the ruins and decided to build something new. As Nathan slipped the ring onto Sarah's finger, she looked up at him with eyes that still held shadows, but now also held light. "I love you," she said, "for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." "I love you," Nathan replied, "for teaching me that perfection is just another word for emptiness." They kissed as the sun set over the Pacific. Two broken people who'd become whole not by fixing each other, but by accepting that some fractures can't be healed. They can only be held together with hope and stubbornness and love that refuses to give up. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. The end.